Hello, we're in the midst of a historic drought. My name is James Gore. I'm a Sonoma County Supervisor, and with me here today is Janet Pauli, who's the chair of Mendocino County's Inland Water and Power Commission. Janet, you and I work together all the time on things like the Potter Valley Project and the ability of that to deliver water here. We work on this ability to look at Lake Mendocino and the future resilience, raising the walls of the dam. There's a ton of work. You have more than 30, 40 years of work in this because you're also a rancher here. And you know what people need to be able to survive, not just with plentiful water, but how they can be resilient under drought conditions. So today, we're just here to talk a little bit about some ground truth and what's up, because we're in a moonscape, it looks like, and this is really a reservoir. So why don't you share some of your thoughts about what's going on and what we need to focus on to be able to get our people and in our community into a resilient future?
Okay, well, let me start with a little bit of history. The Potter Valley Project that James discussed is currently licensed by Pacific Gas and Electric Company. They have a license with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. That project has been there since 1908.
Yeah.
And water has been diverted from the Eel River watershed into the Russian River watershed. But it wasn't until 1922 when we actually had water coming through that project in the summertime, because that's when they built Scott Dam, which forms Lake Pillsbury. So since that time, there's been water available in the Russian River system in the summertime when it was never here before. So right now we're doing two separate things. One is that project is up for relicensing. And so we're involved in that. PG&E is not going to be relicensing it. So we have a group of partners working to do that, working with FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. And the other thing is, because of this unprecedented natural drought, the storage in Lake Pillsbury has been diminished to very, very low and dangerous levels. So we've actually asked for FERC to give us a variance on that license. The license is very specific about when water can be released down the Eel River or into the Russian River. We asked them to adjust that this year. So instead of, for example, a normal 25 CFS coming through the project as a minimum flow for the East Branch, which flows into Lake Mendocino, it's been reduced now to 5 cubic feet per second.
5 cubic feet per second. So what we're talking about is in the middle of a drought on this side, where we're trying to keep enough water to have, by the time we get to October, 20,000 acre feet in this facility so it doesn't fail and we have some water as we come into the rest of the year. But at the same time, we're not going to have an additional 5,000 to 6,000 acre feet coming out of what we usually anticipate because of the needs on that side of the ridge, right?
That's correct. And to make it even worse, Potter Valley Irrigation District has a contract, a long-term contract started back in 1924 for water to be delivered to us by PG&E. And that contract has been cut in half. So not only a 5 cubic foot per second minimum in-stream flow, we've got 25 cubic feet per second, and that's it.
Yeah.
And so Potter Valley is working very hard right now to allocate what little water we have to our growers and all of our agricultural community there.
One of the keys that we all need to recognize is that our whole system grew up around a managed system. There's a lot of people that think that, oh, in the 20s and 30s, I read these stories about crazy fisheries all over the place, but they don't realize that that was because there was basically an artificial source, not a natural source, that was delivering us water and keeping water in our stream year long. So a lot of these conditions have already been impacted by men, women, civilization, all of the agriculture that's been developed, all of the houses that have been built. All of those are basically because of the availability of water. Without water, there is nothing here, right? So we're in a situation, what Janet is really a leader on with us and others, is figuring out the future of the Potter Valley Project. And there is a ton of work, a regional group that's trying to figure out a two-basin solution, which means benefits for the Eel River and benefits over here for the Russian River side. The Russian River side, you're north, Potter Valley is north of Lake Mendocino, so you don't get to benefit from the storage in this lake, but then this lake, as it fills up, is delivered down through the Ukiah Valley, where everybody farms grapes and cattle, and there are other things there. And then it goes into Sonoma County, where we're really talking about Alexander Valley and other areas through Hillsburg, and then connecting up with Dry Creek as it comes down. So we're in a crazy situation, because just maybe a week or 2 weeks ago, the governor of California stood right here where we're at and said, look at this. This looks like, look at the crackles in the ground. Is this year, or is this our new reality of having to figure out how we become more resilient with less? What do you think?
Well, I think there's a problem in trying to obviously predict the future. And while we can do a lot of modeling and we can look at different scenarios, what if the Potter Valley project went away, for example, we can't predict what the future will tell us, but what we can do is take 100 years of information and model it and say, all right, let's do this to the system. Let's pretend that the Potter Valley project isn't here anymore. What does it mean? What would it have meant for the last 100 years? And we find, when we do that, that this lake would not have filled in potentially 8 out of 10 years.
8 out of 10 years. In 8 out of 10 years, without the Potter Valley project coming through, this would not be full, right? And it would be not only not full, but in many areas it would be empty as well.
It could potentially be empty in several of those 10 years. Now, the other problem, of course, is, could we do something to fix that, since it's already a man-made system? Can we look at raising Coyote Valley Dam, for example? That was actually authorized by Congress back in the 50s. When the Army Corps of Engineers came here in the 50s because of the tremendous floods that were happening, they had a 3-phase project. First one was this dam, second one was Warm Springs, third one was to come back and raise this 36 vertical feet, which would basically double the gross capacity of this lake. We did a feasibility study for a while. It went away due to lack of funding. It's been resurrected now with help from Congressman Huffman. And so we're hoping in 2023 to start a feasibility study again to look at that. So it's a potential help for us to manage this water.
Well, I think, as you say, breaking some of this down, is the reality is that we are all dependent upon a system that's already been in place for 100 years, 120 years, really. And it starts with Potter Valley, then it comes down with this coming online in the 50s, then it goes to Warm Springs Dam, Lake Sonoma, coming online, late 70s, early 80s, really starting to fill up. And basically, we are stewards now of the past. And it's complex to figure out how to manage this stuff going forward into the future. We have right now a process where we assume that we're going to have to change how Lake Pillsbury and Scott Dam is really set up. I got a lot of people who are advocating to me, trying to tell me, hey, you can't allow that politically, you can't do that. What they don't realize is that there are regulatory agencies that are going to require fish passage up there for the Endangered Species Act. Over here, we have to have enough water for Potter Valley, for Alexander Valley, for Ukiah, for others. So I just want to thank you for being basically a champion of resilience and not just owning the past, because there's a lot of people who just look at us and say, no way, no how, I want to go back to the way it was for the last 20, 30 years. We know, as being people who are passionately reasonable and action-oriented, trying to get things done, not just yell, is that it's going to take a lot of work. But with this partnership between Mendocino and Sonoma County, I have confidence that we're going to figure it out.
Yeah, and everybody needs to keep in mind that truly our way of life and our quality of life in the Russian River has evolved with this water supply. It is up to us to protect it as we can. On the same side of the coin, actually, is protection of habitat and species. And that's also our mandate. That is something that we have to do, and we are. And I think, it would be nice every once in a while for folks to say, great job, you're doing a great job. Well, but it'll come.
Well, I think it's a reminder. Every time we come into a drought, you can take action. This is all about people turning the tragedy of the commons into the triumphs of the commons. This is about you making sure in your own property you're using less than 50 gallons per person per day. This means that you have to limit outside watering in different areas, because we're just in a situation where It's a supply and demand issue. It means that you have to look at potentially trucking waters in certain areas, using more recycled water. So while the folks who are involved and in charge of the institutions and the systems change, we want to make sure you know what we're working on. But at the same point, just like our wildfires, just like the pandemic, just like our floods, just like our droughts, just like our issues with homelessness and other things we're working on, you have a part in the solution and you have to step up. So thank you. Thank you, Janet. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Nice to see you.
We're going to do this.
Yeah, we are.
Okay.